Hello, Satnam, it's me, Shakti Sundari, and I'm back with you today for the next reading from the Radiance Sutras. This is my second attempt today because when I first tried to do the readings, my client arrived a little bit early, so didn't have time to finish. So I aborted that one and waited until later to do this transmission. But yeah, that does lead me to say, just for anyone who's watching this, that I offer one-to-one sessions by Skype and in person for men and women who wish to connect more fully with their ecstatic nature, with their truth, with their full potential, with their sexual aliveness, with their hearts, with their authenticity in life and in relating. Working as a priestess, holding space for women around any issues connected to the life cycle, the embodiment of the feminine, and the awakening of your female essence. So if that is of interest, please get in touch via my website, shaktisundari.com. As you can see, I'm sitting in the sunshine, so it's been a beautiful day. But I've been inside most of the day with my client, and now I'm just so happy to be outside with the sun on my face and the sky is blue and it feels so good. And yeah, one more thing I wanted to say, which is that I came across a post today which said that the Radiance Sutras, I haven't read the full article, but it's an article that has a go at the Radiance Sutras for cultural appropriation and not being an authentic voice of the truth of the Vijnana Bhairava Tantra. I can't speak to that directly in the sense of I'm not a scholar of Sanskrit, so I haven't studied the Vijnana Bhairava Tantra, of which this is a translation, in its original text. So I can't speak to that, but what I can speak to is that when I read the Sanskrit, I feel something in my being. I feel an energy, I feel a truth, I feel a transmission. And when I read these translations, I feel the same. I feel my essence come alive and my body vibrating with the truth and the beauty of these words. So for me, there is a definite truth to both the Sanskrit and the English translation. And I've found, being with these sutras and reading them several times and then doing these transmissions and explaining them, is connecting me more fully with the wisdom that I already have in all that I've studied as a yogi, as a tantrika, as a seeker of truth and self-realization. So I'm getting great value from this. And also there's a bit of a thing, you know, there's a bit of a discourse sometimes that comes up about people claiming to know the truth and have the right interpretation and the only interpretation, and sort of cling to an ideology of truth or rightness. And it can become quite dogmatic and judgmental of anything that's other. And when that happens, I always find myself stepping back, and I kind of feel the lack of truth in that, actually. So that's what I want to say to that. And I will read the whole article, and if I've got more to say, I'll say it in future. Anyhow, we are on Yukti verse 81 today. And here it is. So this is Yukti verse 81 from the Vijnana Bhairava Tantra. Vihaya nija dehashtam savatra asmiti bhavayan Tritena manasa drishtya na anya ikshinya sukhi bhavet. And again. Vihaya nija dahastam savatra asmi iti bhavayan Dritena manasa drishta na anya ikshinya sukhi bhavet. You see, for me, those words, even though I do not understand Sanskrit, are so potent. I could just sit in the vibration and feel a truth. But I'll move on to the English translation. Drop the thought, I am this body. Abandon the limitation, I am only here in this specific place and time. Embrace instead, I am not my body. I am not this place. I am not this time. There is no place. There is no time. Realize I am everywhere, sustained by infinite bliss. So, I love how these verses play with paradox, and I love how they exemplify the dance of masculine and feminine principles and energies. This, for me, is an example of a more masculine approach to meditation and awareness, as some of the other verses are more an expression of the embrace of Shakti, life force, divine feminine energy, in that they speak about a full sensorial immersion in life and all of the senses, taste, touch, smell, hearing, and which is very much, of course, part of being embodied in this body, and the flow of energy through this body. And dancing, for example, to experience exuberance, joy, and infinite bliss. So one cannot, well, actually, I was going to say one cannot dance without a body, and in one way that's true, of course, but actually, in its wider sense, we are all dancing particles of radiance, as the Radiance Sutras say. So there's this play of masculine and feminine energies and principles, and there's this play of different approaches to realization and truth and awareness. And then within that, there's the awareness that one resides within the other always, eternally, and that the one cannot actually exist in fullness without the other. It's impossible. That is really, for me, the ultimate divine union, that recognition of this dance of masculine, feminine, always, eternally, at its highest level. So, this meditation takes for me what I would define as a more masculine, mind-based approach. Drop the thought, so dropping identification, I am this body. This is about dropping the ego, right? Abandon the limitation, I am only here in this specific place and time. What happens when we allow those suggestions to begin to resonate within our being? What happens if we embrace the thought, which is asking us to not think, I am this body? It's identification. I am only here in this specific place and time. You know what? I thought I was Shakti. I thought I was this mother who has 2 children. I thought I was this one who's just been bereft and heartbroken. I thought I was this one who is 52, almost 53 years of age. You know, all these identifications. Abandon this limitation of who you are. Embrace instead, I am not this body. I am not this place. I am not this time. There is no place. There is no time. That expands everything so exponentially, doesn't it? And also what just comes to mind there is how It is only the identifications that create conflict and suffering. So, you know, people are so attached to religious, cultural, national identifications of who they might be. But of course, that's not how we're born. We're not born being Jewish, Muslim, Israeli, Palestinian, Scottish, Irish, black or white in that sense of that defining who we are. We're born as pure essence of the divine. And then all these layers of identification are put upon us like garments that then, as we step into the path of awakening, we take those garments back off again until we're naked in our essence once again. It's kind of crazy, isn't it? But in truth, we are not this body, we are not this place, we are not this time. So what are we then? Which is the question that this begs. What are we then? And even just to feel into that, I'm expanded. It's so liberating. And then from that perspective, looking down to what's happening in terms of wars and conflicts and arguments about being right and having the right interpretation of the sutras and what's the right thing to wear. I mean, it's all so ridiculous, isn't it? Because we're... because we're so much more than that. When we do our Kundalini Yoga teacher training, there's not a vow, but kind of a little mantra that we are invited to repeat before we teach any class. And we use our four fingers and our thumb for this. Let's see if I can remember. I always get a bit lost with them. So before we sit down to teach, we affirm to ourselves, I am not a woman. I am not a man. I am not a person. I am not myself. I am a teacher. And this is a way of negating the identifications that so often run us, and instead to tune in to our higher selves and our potential for becoming a channel for the transmission of Kundalini energy and a channel for transmission of the teachings in a purer way, in a clearer way, beyond the identifications that we might step into and out of as we enter the classroom. In the same way, this practice, this meditation today is asking us to sit and let go of all of these identifications. I can see loads of hearts and things flying across the page. This is great, I love them. Don't know who's sending the hearts, but thank you, I'm just receiving your love. Beautiful. Realize I am everywhere, sustained by infinite bliss. Oh, that's right. I was just talking about, I'm just so distracted by the hearts. Letting go of all the identifications and actually stating, doing this as a practice, I am not this, I am not this. So whenever a thought or an identification or a feeling arises, negating it, like actively, silently negating it. I am not this, I am not my feelings, I am not my emotions, I am not this, I am not this. It's a practice. An aeroplane. And as we drop into that letting go and that negation of identification, something else opens up that is far beyond this. It feels blissful to me. Have a go. I invite you to explore this meditation, this practice, particularly perhaps at a time when you're feeling really identified. When we get really identified with things, we can become defensive, we can really get into feeling pain. And so maybe this is a good time to try this meditation when those identifications are coming up very strongly. It can sound like a platitude, otherwise, you know. It can sound like one of those really annoying truisms that people quote to you when you're feeling upset. But if you have a practice with this yourself and just notice how you feel afterwards, after sitting with this for 5, 10 or 15 minutes, and just notice if it really makes a difference for you. That's the only way we can know the truth, is by experiencing it for ourselves. Alright, thank you so much for being with me, and whoever's sending all those love hearts, much love to you. Satnam, and join me again tomorrow for the next reading from the Radiance Sutras.